Well, it's a very good afternoon and welcome back to another pre-match show here at the Banksy Stadium. As always, thank you very much for joining us on the show, and we've got plenty coming up for you all today. We welcome Northampton Town to the Banksies, and the Cobblers currently sit in 5th position in Sky Bet League 2, and we're going to be taking a look back to a memorable victory here at the Banksy Stadium against them. It was back in April 2018 when George Dobson struck that memorable winner in the 90th minute to secure a 1-0 win. We're going to be hearing from head coach Matt Taylor as he discusses how Rhys Devine, Donovan Daniels and Devante Rodney have all settled into the group ahead of this weekend's game. We're going to be hearing from winger Brendan Kiernan as well as he discusses how the belief is still there in his squad and that they are very positive about picking up a result against Northampton. I'm going to be joined as always by my colleague Paul Joannou as we take a look back to last weekend's game against Bristol Rovers as well as ahead of today's 3 o'clock kickoff. Before you get yourself into the Banksy Stadium today, make sure you pick up a copy of Sadler's Shout. It's got an exclusive interview with Connor Wilkinson in it this week. You may also find yourself on the Sadler's social page as well, so keep an eye out on that one. First up, we are going to take a look back to that game against Northampton Town where George Dobson scored that 1-0 winner. So that was the 1-0 win against Northampton back in April 2018, and those scenes at the end caused pandemonium, and what a finish it was by George Dobson, who started the move and then finished it with a sublime right-footed finish. Next up, we are going to hear from head coach Matt Taylor ahead of this afternoon's 3 o'clock kickoff. Yeah, and what are you expecting from Northampton when they visit the Banksies?
A team that lost a couple of their very influential players in January, and they're still, I think, one of the teams that will definitely be up there this season. They're consistent in their performances. John's done a really good job, similar to me, in terms of it's his first role as a first team coach and first team manager. I went to watch them on Tuesday night. I thought they were effective. They've got some really, really good players, and they've added 3 or 4 in the last 4 or 5 days of the window. So I'm sure that he'll have players in his group that are desperate to perform and prove a point and get into his team because they lost their last game. So that, of course, makes it a dangerous fixture. But our players, we're going into it full of confidence and ready to go. It's imperative now that they feel pressure, but that pressure can't overrule them so that they don't deliver a performance. What we have to do as a group is make sure that my job is to relieve that from them. We give them a clear structure, and then they go and implement a game plan, because our players are still very good players at this level, and it's hugely important to understand that. And keep telling them on a daily basis that I have full confidence in them, as do the staff. Now it's natural when you're a player to lose that confidence when maybe things aren't going right. But we've shown many times this season that we're a good team, and we need to do that again on Saturday.
You mentioned getting clear instructions across there. The majority of the group will understand the way you're working from being with you for large parts of the season, but over the course of January you had a couple of new players in there. How have they settled in?
Really well. And what I like about the players that have come in terms of Reece, Donovan and Devontae, is that they've all got a point to prove, and they're all different positions in terms of their career. So we've got the experienced players. We have that understanding in Donovan. He's a leader. Look at Reece. Reece is desperate to perform. He's a player that will most definitely grow. And then Devontae, in terms of his power, his goal scoring ability, he's a player that probably hasn't hit his potential yet. So therefore that's hugely important for the football club, and all three of those players are the right characters. That was massive, and I always talk about that. It's imperative that we sign the correct type of people first, as opposed to just based on their ability. So look, January is a tough month always to recruit. It's my first one. It was eventful. We lost 3 and we replaced with 3 very good players.
So those were the thoughts of head coach Matt Taylor ahead of today's game against Northampton Town, as he discussed how Reece Devine, Donovan Daniels and Devante Rodney have all settled into the group so far, and what he's expecting from the Cobblers today. Next up, we are going to hear from winger Brendan Kiernan, who discusses the belief that is still in the group. Talk about confidence and consistency seems to be a word that's been thrown about a lot, but it is all about finding that level of consistency, isn't it, to make sure things do turn around, because confidence is there. The results might not be at the moment, but the group do seem confident. There still seems to be a good aurora around the group. The camaraderie is still there, and it is all about like you mentioned, transferring that onto a match day.
Yeah, definitely. It's momentum in football. Like, there's sometimes when you're in a bit of a sticky patch, but I guess finding that momentum, when it comes, everything becomes a bit easier. So it's just pushing through bits like this and then finding that momentum again, finding that rhythm, and I think things flow quite nicely. But in this bit is where we have to come together, stick together, work hard, and the results do come. The momentum, when it does come, you've seen that, everyone's seen earlier on in the season, we play some good football, we work hard for each other. So it's just waiting for that tide to turn again, and I think in that if it's not going as well, that's when you do actually really pull together, and you've seen it in training. That's what we've been doing.
And on a final note, another word is belief, isn't it? There seems to still be the belief there, but it's all about taking it from the good week of training that you will have had going into a match day, and having that firm belief that things will turn and a good result is going to come our way.
Yeah, and I think naturally, when you lose a few games, you can come out and it can feel tough, but I think that's what hasn't changed, is the belief. It doesn't, the results have changed, meaning there hasn't been some of the results that we've wanted, but the belief hasn't. So it's we feel in-house like it's a matter of time. So I think it's just we stick with the belief, we expect things to turn, and hopefully it will cross over onto match days.
So that was the thoughts of Brendan Kiernan ahead of this afternoon's 3 o'clock kickoff against the Cobblers. I'm now joined by my colleague Paul. Paul, as ever, thank you very much for joining us on this one. Before we look ahead to today's game against the High Flyers that are going to be visiting us, we're going to take a look back to that Bristol Rovers game last week. It was a frustrating one, to say the least.
Oh, it was, Tom. Yeah, I think the biggest disappointment will naturally be obviously when Bristol Rovers go down to 10 men and the Saddlers just couldn't capitalise on that. Credit to Bristol, I think they stuck at it. They were organised. They they showed a lot of heart to really not keep the Saddlers at bay, and the Saddlers huffed and puffed a little bit. It wasn't the best attacking display that we've seen, because we have seen the team produce some really good attacking football at times this season, haven't we? And it just felt a little bit flat. But that game's over, that game's done, and it's about improving and just focusing on this afternoon's game against Northampton Town. Yeah, and plenty of focus has gone into this afternoon's game. We've heard from Matt Taylor, who says they've had a really good training week, as they always do. There's plenty of effort that's still there. That's never shied away from. But it's a tough game there, on a little bit of a dodgy spell as well, in terms of results. Ourselves, 5 games without a win, 5 losses. That is a real,
key point at the moment, which is something that everyone is focusing on. But back at home, it's a good opportunity to show a performance like we did against Bradford.
That's it, and I think Matt Taylor has said it. When we do perform, we tend to get results. Okay, Bradford was probably the one example where we performed and we didn't get a result. But 9 times out of 10, when we do play well, when we do perform, we get a result that we probably deserve. And the fans here against Bradford would have felt that the Saddlers deserved the result on that evening, whereas maybe perhaps the Bristol Rovers, the Saddlers weren't at their best and they didn't get the result because they probably didn't deserve the performance, didn't deserve the result. But against Bradford, they did. So they'll know that if they perform, they will probably get the result they deserve, because as Matt Taylor says, they tend to when that happens. And I think it's just about everyone sticking together. I think it really is. And 5 games, everyone's really disappointed with that run. Of course they are, fans, players and coaching staff alike. But I think it's very important that everyone sticks together and really comes together and show what Walsall Football Club are made of, because when we are together and when everyone's united, there's no better place to be than Walsall Football Club. Such a tight-knit community all round, and that's what we pride ourselves on, being a family club, and we want to get back to that. And when the fans are seeing the team on the pitch produce and giving everything, which they are working so hard to do, we know that we went to the training ground briefly yesterday, so we've seen the hard work that he's putting in. So it's important, I think, everyone pulls together. Hopefully the home serve will be bouncing today as it usually is, and plenty of songs and really getting beyond the boys.
Yeah, it's all about that, and we see that the confidence is still there in the players. You mentioned we popped up to a training ground earlier in the week, and it was the atmosphere there wasn't of a team that's on a 5-game losing streak. The confidence is still there in the team, and it's all about now trying to transmit that and trying to take that over that white line when it matters at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. And we've seen that. You mentioned everybody pulling together there, especially that Bradford game, when the supporters can see that their team are putting in a really solid performance, a game where you could have been 3-0 up at half time, so to say. When that's there, everybody pulls in the same direction, and that seems to be such a key thing at the moment, is everybody staying together and trying to almost pull ourselves to a positive result. Yeah,
it's not. I think at this stage it's not going to take one man or maybe one moment. I think this needs to be a collective effort, and I think that's what it's all about, and that's what the team are gearing up towards, a big collective effort against Northampton to really get a result and get our season going again. And I think there's a big week coming ahead. We've got a game in midweek as well, and then a Tranmere visit us this time next week. So there's a lot of action in February. So I think we're starting to really catch up from that 3-week Christmas break that looking back, it feels like really disruptive, didn't it, to a lot of team seasons. So it is about just everyone uniting together, and it's going to be a big collective effort, and that's what we need. And I'm confident that it will come, and I know the players are. There's still that belief, which is important, and they do believe. And I think it's about, once they find that rhythm, then once you get that momentum and it swings the other way, it can sort of last a bit longer and continue. Yeah, and
there'll be 2 familiar faces in the Northampton team, in John Guthrie, who's got 6 goals to his name so far this season as a centre half. That's pretty impressive. And then Liam Roberts, who's they've got I think it's the 4th best defensive record in the league. He's got double figures of clean sheets as well, and they'll be coming back into it, but they're up there for a reason, aren't they? And we're going to be expecting another tough test from the Cobblers today.
Absolutely. Just had a look at their results, and I think they've pretty much been in the top 7 since around October. I don't think they've dropped out of the top 7. If they have, it's been very brief since October. So they've been fairly consistent in the last 3 months, albeit they did slip up in midweek against Barrow, which might have been a few coupon busters for a few fans, I'm sure. So it'd be interesting to see how they shape up. Obviously, like you say, Tom, a couple of familiar faces. They've clearly got a solid base that they build from, and that's their platform to really go and get the results they need. As you say, John Guthrie, centre half, I think he's their second top scorer with 6. I think Sam Hoskins has 7. So it looks like they share the goals around as well, so there's goals all over the pitch from them. So be an interesting contest, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we hope you are too, and we hope you're going to be joining us here at the Banksy Stadium today. As always, we'd like to thank you very much, as I did at the start of the show, for joining us on our pre-match show. Your support has been phenomenal so far on this show, as well as home and away, wherever you are. It's been fantastic. If you are listening on iFollow today and you're not here at the stadium, make sure you give Rob Gurney from BBCWM and Paul a shout. We'll try and get you a shout out on there as well. And as always, that leaves me with one final thing to say, and that's come on you, Saddlers.